The new KTM 1390 Super Duke is available in two variants, the R without and the R EVO with semi-active suspension. Whether with or without, this device is a weapon. Sure, the 1290 Duke was already that, but the 1390 has actually become a bit sharper. At least that's what Volker and Dietmar, who took the EVO out for a wild ride, think. In the meantime, our adrenaline level has calmed down again, and I hope I can put this test article on paper without trembling. Even when stationary, the new 1390 seems to be fast. The look with the new light mask and the well-known Kiska design with corners and spikes is already very polarizing. Some like it, others don't, but the design certainly leaves no one cold. You can't just walk past this motorcycle without opening your mouth or even ignoring it. Striking as ever is the V2 crammed into the orange powder-coated tubular space frame, which would otherwise probably just run away, the rear wheel with the beautiful single-sided swing arm and the silhouette sloping forward. The insectoid front view has now given way to a transformer view. No matter where you look at the bike from, it's clearly a KTM and a clear message to all other road users that you'd better make room now. In terms of seat ergonomics, not too much has changed compared to the 1290 Super Duke. You seem to sit a little more integrated into the machine, but virtually nothing has changed in terms of seat height, wheelbase and handlebars. Why should you? You still sit aggressively, quite upright with a slightly sporty touch as usual with a Street Fighter. Also typical is the emergency seat for the front passenger. You can take someone with you, but he or she must already have taker qualities and want to ride the cannonball without fear. In any case, I would be reluctant to take a seat here as a passenger. And certainly not when Volker is driving, especially since we found neither grab handles nor a strap. However, the passenger will want to cling to the driver like a monkey after the first acceleration anyway, but more on that later. Apart from a distance radar, this machine really has everything that the tech shelf has to offer: lean angle sensors, leak and wheelie control, smartphone connectivity with turn-by-turn navigation, cruise control, hill start assist, riding modes, keyless ride, USB-C, multi-stage traction control and so on. The EVO also has the semi-active suspension, which is not only electronically adjustable, but also automatically adjusts the damping in automatic mode at lightning speed. There's a new anti-dive feature that prevents the fork from dipping when braking hard at the front, and then there's the factory start rear drop for even more grip on rocket launch. Everything, really all the features on this bike can be configured and adjusted to your taste. Also the cornering ABS, which has a supermoto mode. Unfortunately, the operation of these many functions is a bit exhausting. Not because the many pictograms and hints are not well done, on the contrary, but it is simply a lot. Play children will spend a lot of time on the easy-to-read 5-inch display, but older people could easily be overwhelmed. If you still get bored at some point, KTM optionally adds a few treats with the tech pack for €1,100. There are two further driving modes: track and performance, engine drag control and engine brake control, adaptive brake light and other fine adjustment options for the electronic suspension, Suspension Pro, and the quickshifter. Unfortunately, the quickshifter is not standard, but subject to an extra charge. For real racers, the special display in track mode should be exciting. Here you can see not only the lean angle left and right, but also the G-forces and a lap timer. So after about 2 hours of clicking through various menus, let's start the engine. This is already homologated according to €5+. As always, it sounds like V2 and rumbles nicely bassy to itself at idle speed. The typical KTM heavy intake noise is still there, but a tad less present than its predecessor. Nevertheless, the sound is very cool, as our sound check on the top right proves. Especially, of course, when you sit on the bike and pull on then the deer roars as if in an acute rut. Another short sentence about the operation: KTM has given the 1390 separate and illuminated switches for many things. For example, you can shift the traction control up and down with 2 buttons, and you have 2 custom mode buttons that you can assign freely. We have put the switching of the driving modes on C1 and the control of the engine brake on C2. This works great and is a great idea, because different things can be important depending on the driving scenario and driver. And of course, it's the same as always: if you've been dealing with the features for a while, then it also slips with the operation. Just sit on it and drive off is probably the exception here. Some features of the 1390 Super Duke or EVO are subject to an extra charge, such as the quickshifter, the motor drag control, and the 2 race riding modes track and performance, including wheelie and launch control. For the first 1,500 kilometers, however, the 1390 is in demo mode, which provides all these functions to get to know. If you still want to enjoy these features afterwards, you have to buy them, which is considered a ripoff by some people because it is only a software unlock. Well, you can look at it differently. After all, KTM actually lets you try these things out for free first and then decide later whether you want everything or only certain functions. But it should be clear to every critic, software also costs development time and thus money, and in the competitions, additional features of course also cost money, but without being able to try them out beforehand. However, we also think that the quickshifter could have been included at no extra charge, because the 1390 is really not cheap even naked. Okay, we've set up the sport mode and then drive off. However, you can hardly call it driving anymore. Will fly off then clearly fits better. The problem is that you always drive too fast. I have no idea how you can really drive 80 km per hour or even 50 km per hour with the 1390, that's not possible. The throttle response is very direct, super precise, and converts even the smallest movement into propulsion. Without the armada of technical driving aids, we would probably end up in a ditch or stick to the nearest tree. Really guys, be careful with a potential test drive. This probably has nothing to do with your own machine. The V2 is still a bit bumpy at the bottom, but that's part of the folklore of the Super Duke. From 2,500 RPM it becomes harmonious and the LC8 pushes almost from idle throttle. 0 to 100 is not measurable, and data does not play a role here. It really feels like the proverbial ride on the cannonball. New to the 1390 engine is the camshift technology, which activates a different camshaft control from 6,500 RPM, similar to BMW, for example. So there is another blow in the back. Although the task of this technology is actually different, it is supposed to provide power and above all torque in all speed ranges, and it does so without question. Honestly, on the country road this may be too much of a good thing, but somehow it's also awesome. Luckily, the KTM 1390 Super Duke or EVO also has everything on board to destroy the speed just as quickly as it built it up. The Brembo style moss are, in a word, madness. You only have to look at the adjustable brake lever and the load is ready. It can't be much better in the WSBK. In addition, this wonderful modulation and the sheer braking power. Braking here is actually just as much fun as accelerating. I have never experienced that before. The suspension of the Super Duke is also beyond reproach. At the beginning of the test, we set everything to automatic and didn't change that. The semi-active WP suspension works lightning fast and the feedback is very successful. With the Michelin Power GP, plenty of grip is always guaranteed, at least when it's dry, as it was during our test. The machine drives as if on rails, you never really have to correct it, it tilts smoothly in curves and works super predictably. Volker says the following very aptly in the test video: "For me, riding a motorcycle means above all feeling emotions." You always want to ride your bike, and that's exactly the case with the KTM 1390 Super Duke or EVO. One or the other complainer may now remark that you can't get the power of this machine on public roads at all, because otherwise everything will blow up in your face. Yes, that may be, so what? The Super Duke may be overpowered, but that's exactly where the fascination of these and other hypernakeds lies: performance until the crest swells. Have I forgotten anything else? Full LED including the turn signals and daytime running lights is a matter of course, as are hazard lights and self-resetting turn signals. The light is extremely bright, which is especially beneficial for the rear light, which is integrated into one housing together with the turn signals and the brake light. Unlike other bikes that do the same, you can still see the turn signal while even when braking is applied at the same time. The KTM 1390 Super Duke or EVO is a hyper-naked bike that will probably never get boring. It literally pulverizes the driver with emotions, adrenaline, endorphins, and all the other beautiful things. It's so unreasonable that it's sensible to buy it again. Because let's be honest, who wants to ride a decent motorcycle? Okay, the price is steep, but so is the bike. If you have the money, congratulations on your purchase. And give me a call, I want to drive again.